Hey guys, I have another quick video before I head into the gym. I just got out of jiu-jitsu again and I'm all sweaty and gross, so apologies, but not really apologies because you guys get what you get. But I just wanted to take a second, and again, I'm going to do a full-length, organized, detailed video on this tomorrow when I'm working on scripting and all of that stuff, but I just wanted to recognize men's mental health for a minute. I kept getting synchronicities. I kept seeing the word man or the word men and 741, which when I get angel numbers like this, I have coded to the universe the solfeggio tones to equal the chakra I need to look at or work on. And 741 is the throat chakra, which is not only associated with speaking your truth, but it's your ability to hear other people's truth. So when I've meditated on this, I've focused more on projecting energy towards my ears and not just my throat. So I've had it travel up towards my mouth and, you know, kind of like the nasal area, because that's your connection portal between your third eye and your throat, and projected a lot towards the ears because now that I've gotten to a certain point in my healing, I'm able to pay attention to my outer world more comfortably and branch out instead of just being tunnel vision to everything that I need to heal and grow through. And one thing that's been put on my mind by God and my spirit team is men's mental health, and not just women's mental health. My channel has overwhelmingly been aimed at helping women, especially women in crisis, because that's my area of experience as a woman who battled crisis in many areas. So that was my area of expertise. But again, I was getting a lot of these synchronicities of man. I kept getting, this is probably going to be triggering material, but I kept seeing the word like suicide or self-harm and things like that throughout the week. And I wasn't feeling it internally as something that resonated with me. But there was energy behind it when I would see these signs. So I started Googling and YouTubing things that just had those keywords, men's mental health or men and suicide rates, things like that. And a lot hit me with me and a previous partner, and actually a couple of previous partners, but one in particular. And all the downloads of things that I either may have missed or maybe not paid as close attention to, because I was pulled into the depression or previous suicidal thoughts or the PTSD of a lot of my own stuff. And now that I don't feel those things as deeply, and some things I've completely healed and I don't feel at all, I'm very hyper aware of what's going on in other people, being spiritually connected, and then just from a psychological perspective or a relational perspective, just seeing the signs because of being on the other side now and seeing where I've come from and what I've healed. And as I have meditated more towards my ears and the throat chakra and tried to expand that energy, I have been much more hyper aware and attuned to the outer suffering as opposed to the internal suffering that I have felt or still currently feel about certain things. And I have had more downloads and awakening to the emotional side of men the more I've developed my own femininity as well and kind of reclaimed that in myself. And I have a strong sense of empathy and have physically felt things or emotionally felt things, and they've been downloaded in my mind. And if you believe in psychic gifts and all of that stuff, I have felt what other men are thinking or feeling and all of that. And there's this overwhelming sense of I'm not heard. And when I heard this in women, there was this big project I was called to by spirit to break the silence. And now I'm seeing the other side of this where men are being silenced. And I've watched several videos where women are questioned about this, and they're very nonchalant or unfeeling or just genuinely can't see, or when they're asked questions about men's mental health, it's automatically, well, they deserve it because X, Y, and Z, or they actually attack them inadvertently, or whatever. They're men, they treat us like, you know, whatever, so they don't deserve it, and they whatever, he's a man, he can get over it, he can deal with it. So there's all of the stereotypical answers. And then there was also this, I noticed there was this overwhelming thing with women's anger of being misused by men and not being able to get past that in order to see the healthy men suffering, or even the unhealthy men that have misused us, the suffering where that comes from. And I hope this video does not enable men to be the worst version of themselves, or enable women to interact with men in a way where they're not keeping boundaries, which allows this suffering to continue. Because when a man hurts a woman, he hurts himself. So it's twofold. It makes the problem with women worse, and it makes the problem with that man worse. And a lot of the time, men know they mess up and there's more internal suffering caused from that as well. So it keeps them in that cycle, and then it adds to the pain. So I don't want the aim of this video to be women should be doormats for men. I don't advocate that. But I do think that if both genders are ever going to come back together in a harmonious way, there has to be this understanding. And there can still be tough love, and there can still be separation and strong boundaries, and there can still be, well, you can deal with this portion of it over here, and I'm going to be over here because it's not safe for me to be in certain proximities with you or certain interactions with you. I'm a firm believer of that. But I've noticed that there's a mental shift. If you don't feel comfortable enough to interact with men or interact with a man in a certain way, I totally get that, but I think it's the mentality that needs to shift. And I'm saying this as a woman that has been heavily hurt by very damaged, very toxic, and sometimes I would label even downright evil men. And even within that, having strong boundaries now and not allowing myself to be misused by men or talked to or interacted certain ways with men. My empathy for men has gotten much stronger now than in prior times. And the way that I view men, I've done a lot of work on this, has shifted dramatically. And I think I even went over this in the videos where I made the series about healing the feminine. I think one of them was the internalized misogyny and like the internalized misandry of men. And I think this is going on. So it's going on both ends. But again, as a woman who discusses crisis, I'm going to discuss this from the end of women and maybe do a second video on how men should be interacting with women. But our responsibility as healing females, if you have gotten to a stable point, if you're not, worry about you. You don't even have the room or the capacity to even try to do this. But if you know you're at a stable point and you've gotten to your next level of healing and you want to start being more social again, or branch out or be more intimate and close with humanity again, and you can think outside of yourself and you have the breathing space to do that, your next goal after rehumanizing yourself is to rehumanize the populations you feel offended by, because that is the only way to reconcile that relationship. And for me, that came in the form of manifesting and scripting and affirming what men are truly like, what men are truly capable of, what men truly feel. And in a way, seeing the collective man's potential. When in reality, you keep your boundaries strong, you react the way that you need to react, okay? So it's not like the whole thing with falling in love with a man's potential. But from a collective perspective, what you want to do is fall in love with man's potential. You want to reinforce the positivity, right? We talk about this in marriage. When we talk about the collective woman and the collective man, we're talking about the collective marriage and the collective relation between man and woman, or men and women, as a full population. So you want to treat this like a marriage from a collective level as well, and not just the individual level. So if you look at the dynamic and you're trying to save your marriage, because yes, for eternity, men and women are in this together. So it is a spiritual marriage in a sense. You want to treat it the way that you would treat reconciling a marriage. Self-love is always first, but there is a way to balance that with the love that you have for humanity, particularly the half of humanity that is men. In that sense, you want to start reframing in your mind all of the crap programming you've had as a hurt female of men are this, men are that, whatever. Even if you know that men are suffering or that men do have issues, you want to humanize them as this is a man with toxic issues and not a toxic man. You want to separate the person from what is going on with the programming. If you can rid yourself of all the evil and the toxicity and whatever it is that you have battled with, every other human being is capable of this. They may not act on it. They may not have the information to act on it. They may have the information and choose not to act on it, whatever. But the reality that you can look at in a non-naive way, every human being has the same capacity to heal if you have healed. So there's the level of hope that needs to be reintroduced while being realistic. And then you want to add on the perspective from there. So you do want to see man's better half. You don't have to pretend that is the full embodiment of what a man is, because at this point, there are a lot of men who unfortunately are not embodying that because they're dealing with their own issues. But the reality is there is this man potential that everybody has the ability to embody. And you want to start reframing your mentality to recognize those things. You want to recognize them on a collective level and affirm it and write it down. Then you want to take and go through the individual men in your life, both the healthy and unhealthy ones. And you want to find that gratitude, and you want to find the positive things that they contribute and the positive things that they contribute to themselves and you and their kids and their mother or the world. What are they doing for the world? Something positive they do about their job. Even a trash man, okay? A trash man. Honestly, it's a very honorable job. Thank you for getting rid of humanity's waste or humbling yourself enough to do a job that many other human beings would not want to do. Like, it doesn't matter what the situation is. An abusive man. Thank you, I'm not around that man anymore. I pray for his healing. I thank him for being ambitious enough and working hard at his job, whatever, and separate the negative things, okay? Don't pretend they're not there. Don't pretend that man doesn't struggle with X, Y, and Z. But the point is to bring focus and to highlight what is going good and to recognize and see that more so you can bring those two things into balance. Because the worst thing that we can do, and this is the same thing that women are fighting for, as damaged women, we don't want to admit it, we do a lot of toxic things, but we know it comes from a place of hurt. We know we're trying to do better, and we know the future me is not going to be like this. I know from personal experience, I've done a lot of that, and I'm a person with a deep level of empathy. And I, during my healing process, expected people to be courteous of this. I expected a man to understand. I would get mad if a man did not understand. So you want to not have a double standard. So when you flip the script and you understand you're not the only one suffering, you're not the only one going through issues, you're not the only one projecting things onto a man because prior men have done things to you. That man is projecting things onto you because prior women have done things to him. His mother issues. He has been misused or abused by another woman. He's been cheated on by another woman. And you want to, I think the natural inclination is to demonize the man for acting the way that he has. And you can absolutely demonize what a man is doing if it's not correct. But on a whole, as a collective population, on the spectrum, most of the time it is a struggling man. And is a struggling man that wants to do better, who typically has no outlet and typically has no voice. So I think your job as a woman, again, as a stable, healed woman who has brought herself to a certain degree of understanding and stability and mentally sound nature and emotionally sound nature, can do this. If you're at that level, your next project is to reconcile the idea that men are not evil. They are struggling and they are hurting just like us. So that corrupted view they have of us, of women are evil, women are snitches, witches, women are toxic, women are materialistic. We have that same mirrored narrative going on about men. So if you want to stop the cycle, you have to put your pride down. I don't care how much it hurts. If you're stable and you really claim that you have power, you can put your pride down. And you could admit men are inherently good. Change the narrative in your mind. Men are inherently good. They are hurting just like us. And they have the same capability that women have to heal. Okay. They have the same capability to express emotion. Okay. Certain things have not manifested yet. Certain things have not awoken yet. But as enlightened beings who are hopefully traveling towards the path of light, if you know you're on that path, The path is unity. The path is harmony. And it's not just harmony for women, harmony for Hispanics, harmony for blacks, harmony for whites. It's everybody. So if your tree has extended beyond yourself enough to begin to see the outer pieces, you have to move with those outer pieces to the degree, to a realistic degree that you can. And there's no reason that, at least in your mind, you can't change the narrative. I understand that in physical action, a lot of us might be too afraid, too sensitive, too triggered, too fearful, too uncomfortable to act certain ways, but you can definitely at least start in the mind and change the way that you're thinking about men and seeing their light, seeing their positivity, seeing their hope, rewarding and expressing gratitude for when they do express emotion, for when they do open up. It might be slight, tiny moments, you know, it might be something that the average person might feel to be insignificant, you know, but if you really zoom in and start to focus on those things, same thing with collective manifesting, you're going to start to see men in general in a different light, and you'll start to behave less aggressively towards them. You'll start to behave more positively towards them in a reasonable fashion. Obviously, have your guard up if men are disrespectful, okay? Just big asterisk for that, because I can hear the potential backlash for this already. Obviously, be reasonable, be realistic, but a lot of the time on both ends, there's this polarized view of the opposite gender, and it's fueling the cycle and the narrative that one gender has more problems than the other. And I think a younger me used to, especially in the times when I was being abused and stuff, I definitely felt like, oh, it's the tyrannical patriarchy and stuff. And that's very true, but there's a tyrannical matriarchy too. It just manifests in a different way. But in general, assuming that one gender has more problems than the other is false. They may look different, they may manifest different, but they're always going to be the same core issue. And we're always going to mirror that hate back and forth, or that discomfort, or that fear, or that jealousy, or whatever the root issue is. We're going to mirror that back and forth within each other. And it skews and it manifests a little bit differently in actions between men and women. But if you look close enough, you can really see the same deep-rooted issue. And a lot of the time, when you're the one who stops the cycle and gets it going the opposite way, whether you feel it's your responsibility or not, again, reality is always going to mirror itself, and might happen in baby steps and tiny little sparkles when you want something to glow big. It might be a sparkle this big, but it's going to react to you. And your outer environment with any group of people that you have any discourse with is going to start to mirror the positivity that you are putting into it. One of my other videos, I talked about, you may not see this huge divine change in this lifetime, or in this 5-year period, 2-year period, 10-year period that you're hoping for as the big goal, but you're a moving piece within that. And it's just your job to steer it the direction that your core beliefs tell you it should be steering towards. And that is the main goal. So with all of that being said, I hope that the divine feminine and everyone awoken in it can start to integrate positivity about men into daily affirmations, and changing the way that we think about men, and change the way we encourage men. Do not be a doormat. Have an open invitation. If it's rejected, let it be rejected. If mistreatment happens, separate yourself, you know, defend yourself, whatever you have to do. But on a whole, when we interact with the average man, I think that we can start to add in some of that feminine light, and that softness, and that sweetness, and that joy, and that, you know, all of the feminine qualities and the light qualities and the happy, innocent qualities we're looking to regain in our healing journey. We want to branch that out to the opposite gender. This is obviously true with men to women as well, and I'll make a separate video on that. But the focus for right now, men are hurting just as much as we are, and I really need us to recognize that. I think Spirit has really pushed me to start coming out with that in the last couple weeks, that we need to recognize men as equals in their suffering. If we want to be seen equal in our power to men, then we need to see them as equal in their weakness to us, you know? It's a cycle that everybody goes through, and we don't for the most part, recently have not put enough focus on the reality of what that is like. And giving honor and grace to men and doing the exact opposite that this world will tell you to do, because they will call that weak, you know, they will call it ignorant, they will call it naive. And if you execute it improperly, of course it is. But the wisdom of this is, if you really want to heal women, you're also going to do your best to try to heal the men around you. Don't mother them. Don't overextend your position, but in your daily disposition, in your daily thoughts, and your daily interactions with the average man, be respectful. Treat him with the same emotional openness you would treat a woman. Give compliments to men when they deserve it. You know, I think overwhelmingly the collective woman also, there's truck lights, that's why this is right, and somebody's parking in front of me right now because I'm about to go inside. But the collective woman really does nag the collective man, and there's a lot of bashing going on. We have to stop that. We have to, even if real things are going on, we've got to concentrate on what's going right, and we cannot be an added force of weight just pushing down and suffocating men who are already hurting, because they already don't have as much of an outlet as women do. So we cannot be an added force just suffocating them into a ball of depression and repression even more, you know? So at least if you don't want to be a conducive force or an active force, or feel you cannot be an active force, you don't have to aggravate the situation further, you know? At least it's one of those help or get out of the way sort of things. And both honestly are respectful. As a woman, if you feel like you can't help, you know, one of those, if you don't have anything nice to say or you don't have anything nice to do, don't say or do anything at all. Just don't do anything at all. And I hope this doesn't come off harsh, and I hope this doesn't come off naive, because again, I'm a woman who's been deeply misused by men and had my worldview tainted for a long time, and I feel much better sitting on the other side now of seeing men as beautiful creatures who can add to our lives, and trying to appreciate men every day. And it's helped me as a woman, and I'm gonna make a separate video on that. But you don't have to actively do anything. Just at the very least, please change your thoughts, and please be more positive towards men. They really do need it. They probably won't admit it. But as a divine feminine, we can see further into women, and we can see further into men more than we think. So if you can see what's going on underneath the surface of the collective man, do something positive to help the cause.